if you remember correctly, you have an AWS account. We started from there. We also introduced the global infrastructure, right? And then all the things we've been doing since is to understand what is like permissions, what is like users in an account, right? We said that is like how you can lock the account access, all right? Which means that it's not like the account you would say people should not go in. You need people to genuinely go in. Like if I'm collaborating with you, right? Maybe you now understand AWS and we're just using one account to collaborate. You pretty much will need to be in the account. I will be in the account. So the idea of IAM is that you could have many users use the account. The account is not specifically for one person. You can always create users. If you were like building a project, if you were working on the project and you needed 2, 3 people to work on the project, you can create unique users for them, right? And give them the right permission such that if they go into the account, they can do everything that concerns them, right? But again, so we understand what AWS is from a high level, and we also understand what it takes for us to have permissions, users, and group setup, right? Now, the next level you should be asking yourself is how do I access the AWS services? For the most part, we've been using just one approach all the while. If you notice, we go to the UI, we search for things. For a lot of people who are here on the Builders Day, you tried it yourself, you went to the console, you could create user, right? And so basically what I'm trying to introduce here is that that is not the only way to use AWS, the AWS account that you have. There are so many ways. In fact, in real world, like in the real world, right? You'll be using all these other all these other ways to use the AWS services. Okay, so up until this point, you've been used to using the GUI, okay, which is the graphical user interface. But that's not the only way you access AWS. So what we're trying to do here is to help you understand the other ways that you can access your account. Okay, and it will be clear at the end of the class. So the whole idea is that you want to understand GUI is already what you're doing, so pretty much you have an idea. Console, you don't know. It's part of what I'm going to show you here, like the using the CLI, and then SDK, and then CloudShell. So what is the learning objective basically? You need to know other ways you can use your account, okay? Because in the real world, like I mentioned, it's not just going to be via the GUI. It's not every time you go to the GUI. There are some problems that you want to solve. You need a script, right? Probably maybe like it's a Python script. And if you were to use a Python script, it's not you again. It's an application that is doing something on your behalf, right? So that's one way of doing it. But there's also CLI, right? You can do things even in the CLI. Many of the things that we've done in the UI, you can do it via the CLI, okay? And then obviously the one you're used to is like doing it via the console. I've always preached about the console, right? Like going to the UI and doing things yourself, okay? So here we'll see basically how to install the CLI. It's not hard. There's nothing cast in stone there. And the good thing about it is that you can always rely on the knowledge of, these are things that if you go to any of the AWS certifications, nobody's going to ask you. And that's why sometimes I prioritize hands-on, because many of these things, nobody will ask you in the exam. Oh, show me the steps in installing CLI. Nobody's going to ask you that, right? You just need to know what CLI is. You need to know it for yourself because you are the one that needs to access your account, right? So it's you that needs it for yourself. But in the exam, nobody's going to ask you, oh, what are the steps? What are the steps you need to take for you to install a particular application? No. The questions you'll be seeing might just relate to the fact that you know the different ways of accessing your AWS services, right? So here we'd also do like a simple example in all the steps, like in all the different ways you can do it. We're going to do an example, and it's going to be practical, and then see how CloudShell can simplify that. And I'll tell you what CloudShell is. So management console. So like I said, method one, management console. Remember the topic is still how do you access your AWS services, right? Right now, we've not really provisioned a lot of services. I think on this call, most of us have created users. Most of us have we've created users. Most of us have created users. Most of us have created policies. We've created permissions. We've created SNS topic as part of the class. But that is not the only way, right? So when you go to the console, you notice that you've been able to do all that in the console. You could just search for a particular service. You could install it, right? So basically, visual, like that's why it's called a GUI. It's like a graphical user interface. And honestly, here I say it's best fit for beginners and one of manual tasks. Absolutely, because if you think about it, like I said, as you go deeper in your journey, console will not be where you are creating things again. Okay, but I always tell people you need that console knowledge. You need to see how things fit together, because if you can create it in the console, it is easy for you to more or less like it is easy for you to even write it as an infrastructure as code. Somebody has told me before that, oh, you should start from infrastructure as code. And I'm saying that no, there's no way you do that. You cannot start as infrastructure as code. You still need an understanding of the console. You need to basically see how it works, how it fits together. Then from there, you can put code on top of it, put infrastructure as code on top of it, whatever you want to put on top of it. But the good thing is that at that step, you already know what it's about, right? Okay, so this step is fundamental. We've done this several times, but I'm just going to show you. So I'm here in my account. So if you see here on the right, that's my root account. And I told you going forward, I'm not going to be using my root account. Basically, my root account is administrative. It's really for administrative stuff. I have another user here who is Brainyl, right? So like I said, every time you come here, so the fastest way to get to an AWS service, whether you know it or you don't know it, right? If you're looking for a service, you just need to search, just search for it. So no matter the say, if I type, for example, I do Athena, it's going to show up. If I do glue, it's going to show up. If I do crawler, there's so many things that you don't know now that you're going to see as time goes on. But honestly, this is like the fastest way to get to any service. Okay, just type it. So in this case, I'm going to do SNS. And if I do simple SNS here, um, I have one topic right now. I think we've done this like several times, but I can just go in here and say my topic, right? Just create one. I think we've done this several times, but I just wanted to show you something else. So I've created a topic. So whenever you see yourself doing this, so you come to the UI, like the GUI here, you move around, you do things. That's basically GUI, graphical user interface. That's all you are doing, right? So every time you see yourself log in, especially it requires you to log into the console, physically log into the console, do things. That's GUI. Okay, but that's not the only way. You can't always be doing this. For the most part, in fact, in the real world, once you go deeper, you will not even be doing this. Okay, you won't be doing this. Many of the things that you're going to be doing is, it how it is in the console, but for the most part, you're going to write like script, or you write like infrastructure as code for it to do this same thing for you, right? So instead of coming here going, because I've always told you why the GUI is not good, right? The reason is because if I create this, right, if I create an SNS topic from here, and you have to do it yourself. Imagine we were both working on the same project and I have to create it in the UI. How do you think I would pass that message to you? I would have to tell you, oh, search for SNS, click on this, create, I don't have to do that. If I know I can do it in the UI, the next thing I can do is translate that to like a code, like something that can be replayed anywhere. So whether you are in another country, once you play that code, it's going to create the same topic, right? The same SNS topic. So just know if you are ever in the UI, that's GUI, basically. You're doing graphical user interface. But that's not the only way to reach AWS. So I'm not going to stress on that one. That one is pretty much straightforward. Everything we've been doing up until this point is really GUI. We've been using the GUI. But there's also the command line interface. So what it means is that the same thing that I did via the UI, I can as well do it via the command line. And what is command line basically? Command line is just command line, meaning you have to do it from the command line, from like a like a console basically. And where does that fit in? Scripting, automation. So if you wanted to script, for example, I just needed to if I wanted the same SNS topic that I created from the UI, I could do it fast, even faster from just the CLI, because I'll just paste in one command. Then I don't need to log into the UI. I don't need to search for SNS. I don't need to create, right? I can just do that via the console. Okay. For Linux, so if you see, I did put 3 examples here about like it depends on your OS. I think if you are on Discord, I think I've asked this question before. What is the UI most people are using? And everybody said most people have said they're using Windows, right? So for the most part, I'll be targeting Windows people, Windows on this call. And the reason is because for Mac, it is very simple. If you wanted to install CLI on Mac, like the AWS CLI, all you just need to do is just brew install, right? Brew install AWS CLI, and you're going to get it. So one line, you just type it in the console. Similarly for Linux, if you paste these 3 commands, you will get it, right? You just install it. So if I paste curl, I do unzip, I do sudo install, yeah, it's just going to install that for me on the Linux command line. But what we are going to do, I'm using Windows to teach you, so many of the things that I'm going to do here is Windows. But you can always refer to the document to use the version that you're using, like install based on the the operating system you're using. Okay. And again, this, like I said, when you get to the exam, for example, nobody's going to ask you, oh, what are the steps or how, which command. You don't need all that. Okay. Basically, you can always go online. You can always, for example, go here and say AWS CLI install, right? And if you go here, honestly, I always tell people, as much as I'm teaching you, I'll give you the knowledge. But again, I always tell people, sometimes also know how to get things done yourself, okay? Because things, they change over time. Like if I teach you this course now and you see it in the next 3 years, you might be surprised that things may have changed, right? So it means you just need to know how to get your knowledge updated as time goes on, okay? So what it means is that if you go into the AWS documentation, whatever I showed you in this slide, this is like the single place of truth, right? So whatever I showed you in this slide could be outdated, but always know how to go back to the AWS website to be like, okay, how do I install something via my CLI? And if you go Linux, it gives you the instruction here. And then for Windows, basically gives you another instruction down here. I think Windows, Mac OS is really simple. The command that I put there is easy. Just do brew install. And then for Windows, yeah, you can obviously download whatever you need to download. So let's see what it takes. Let's see how we can do it in Windows. I think it's here. It looks like I just need to download the file. I've done that. Let me try and install it. So basically, I think it's this one. I think if you're a Windows person, this step should be familiar to you, right? Just download and install. So it's showing me something here. I'm just going to do next. I'm just going to accept, do next. Next. Like I said, because TikTok Studio only works well on Windows right now. It doesn't work on Mac. That's why I'm a Mac person. So I'm using Windows for this live stream, but I'm really Mac. Like I do Mac. And so I'll just do install. Just so you know, uh, just so you know, before this installation, if I go to PowerShell and I type the AWS command, so if I do, and that, really this is the CLI. So if I come here and I do AWS, nothing is showing up yet. Just so you know, if I type AWS here, nothing is showing up because I don't have it installed yet. Okay, so that's why I'm going through the installation process. So let's go through the installation process. It looks like it's still installing. Let's give it some time. But the whole idea is that whatever I did in the UI, I should be able to do it here. So I should be able to do something like AWS SNS, blah blah blah, and create, right, and create like the same topic that I created using the UI. Okay, so let's just give it time. But again, one thing I'm very sure of is that while we're waiting for it to install, like I said, I've showed you the 3 steps for you to install depending on the operating system you are using. Okay, but while we're waiting for you to do that, remember that in the CLI also, remember in the CLI, for example, it's something that's like the CLI is an application in this case. Remember in the GUI it was you, right? But in the CLI it's also something else. In this case, it's the CLI, right? But again, have you ever thought about how will the CLI have access to my account? You have to grant it access, okay? So while we're waiting for this to install, maybe it's a good time for us to go and set up the CLI. So what should we do? I need to create a user. So basically, remember I told you that CLI is command line interface, right? You have to interact with your AWS account using the command line interface, right? And remember, right now we're still trying to install whatever we need for the CLI. But again, it will need a credential when that time comes and you see it. So before that, let's set up the user because I can't use my admin user for that kind of place. I can't. Okay. So what I'm going to do is go to my user, right? So so I'll go to IAM. So just for this demo, I'm going to create a user, right? So I'm going to create a user. Remember, I'm creating the user with my admin user. Like I've mentioned, there is always, you can have an admin user in addition to your root user. Okay. No, you don't need a role. You basically don't need a role. You don't need a role. For the example that I want to show you, you don't need a role. So I'll just say test. Let me just call it a test user. I don't have anyone. Now look at this example. You remember I showed you this option before when we're doing IAM. I told you provide user access to the AWS management console. That option is specifically there if you want the person to have access to the GUI, right? So me that I'm inside my account right now, I'm in the GUI, but this person that I'm creating, I don't need the person to have access to the GUI. I basically just need the person to be able to use the CLI, right? So and for that reason, I don't really need to give him GUI access. So the management console, I don't need to give them access. So I'll leave this part unticked. Please take note. I'll leave this part unticked. What it means is that this person that I'm creating will never be able to log into the account. The person can physically come into the like log in into the account. Okay. So I'm just going to create a test user. Now this is where I'm going to attach a permission directly, and in this case, I want to say the person should just be able to. So maybe I want to do something. What do I want to do? Maybe create a policy. I could create one. So attach policies directly. Okay, let me just create one simple policy. So in this case, I want to create a policy. I think this should not be new, right, for you. I think this is basic. It's basic for you. So I'm not giving it all permission, but I want it to be able to write. So I want it to be able to create a topic in this case, and that's all. What else? Permissions management, blah blah blah. I don't really need all this. Specific resource. Maybe I want to streamline the resource. So let me just do this. Let me see. So I'll show you something now. Just watch. So this is topics. For example, I've created these 2 topics before. I'm just going to copy this ARN. I'm going to copy this. Then I'm going to take it back to where I was creating a policy. So specific resource, I want to add a particular ARN. Is US West 2 for the region. In fact, this, I think I can just paste it here. Oh, I don't know why it does. So it's actually US West 2. And then my CLI topic. So this is what I want to do. So I'm going to add the permission. Maybe I don't need this extra permission. I just need that one. So I'm going to do next. So let's see the finalized permission. You see what it looks like. So test user policy. Don't worry, we're not doing anything new. What we are doing, we already know. I'll only show you what the difference is. So I'll do this. I'll go here. SNS is here. I'll create policy. And then I'm going to show you what the policy looks like. So I just know that there's nothing I did that is new to you. Okay. It's a knowledge you already have. So it's a customer managed policy, right? And if I click on the policy, for example, and I try to check the JSON, right? Just take note of the policy. So I'm going to zoom in a bit. What is the policy doing? It's saying that whoever this policy is given to can create topic. The person can create topic. But that topic has to be in this account in a particular region, and the name of the topic has to be my CLI topic. Okay. Um, so you can see that I gave the person a specific permission, specific in this case. I didn't want to keep it open because I'm doing this in live. I'm doing it live. So I'm creating someone who can do something on my behalf, but I'm tying his permission just to one thing. Okay. So in this case, I'm saying allow the person to create topic, and this is the topic I want the person to be able to create. Okay. Good. So this policy has been created already. Let me go and look for the user. So remember, we're still here. We're still trying to set permission for the user. So let's look for that. I think I'll just need to refresh so that we can bring that fresh policy in. So I'm going to do test user policies here, the one we just created. This is not new to you. We've done this several times, right? So I'm going to do next. You see why the knowledge adds up over time, right? So now I'm just going to add that policy, and then I'm going to create the user. Now I've created a user. The user is test user. If I click on this user right now, it has just one permission. So if I go to like, there's just one permission for the test user, and the permission is basically a customer managed permission, and it says that the person can only create a particular SNS topic, okay, with a particular name. So if the person chooses another, we'll test all that out. Okay, so we've done that. So the next thing is that remember that when I created this user, I said that this person cannot log into the console, right? I did not enable that part, so I didn't even give it username. I didn't give it password. Okay. Now let's go back to our installation. I'm sure it's finished. So it says AWS, the CLI has been installed. So let's now try from here. So if I go here and I do AWS, not sure. I think I need to restart this. Let me just do shell, PowerShell again. Let's go. So I open PowerShell again. Remember, I'm doing this from Windows. So let me now do AWS. So let's give it some time. I've already. So you can actually see it. Okay, you're not seeing it. Let me. I think you're not seeing it. So what I did was, after creating it, I closed the PowerShell and I opened it again. So just so you know, Windows, it does that. But if it was Mac or Linux, you can immediately just call you can immediately use the command. Okay. So what I've done here is that I created this. I created it. I installed the CLI, right? And then I just had to restart my PowerShell. Okay. And once I reinstalled, closed and opened my PowerShell, it's now here. So if I type AWS, you see it here. So it was different from the one before. The one before was showing red, but now it shows that the CLI is installed. Okay. But the thing is that if I try to do AWS, for example, I say AWS SNS create topic. So this is a simple command, create topic, right? And I say, maybe, let me just say create topic. What will it say? It's going to say, okay, so I need the name of the topic. So I need name. Let me just say my CLI topic. What will it say? It probably won't even work because it does not know me, right? I've not been, yeah. So it doesn't even work. It won't work at this point. You can see it says you must specify a region. You can also do like AWS configure this environment. The reason is that I'm trying to do an operation against my account using the console, like using the command line interface, but I've not configured the credential. Remember, I said that if you want to interact with your AWS account outside the GUI, you have to still configure that user. You have to give the person a permission. You have to give the person an identity. It understands the language. It's a different thing. It understands the language right now. It knows that I can talk to my AWS account. What it does not know now is that talking to the account as who is the problem right now. It does not know who. Like, it doesn't even know which region. Remember, resources, you can put them in different regions, right? You can put them in different regions. Right now it's like, which region are you sending me to? Because I know SNS is region based. So you're trying to create an SNS topic, but which region are you even targeting? Even if I give it a region, the next question would have been, who are you? I don't know you. There's no way I can perform this operation if you don't tell me who you are, right? So I think the next part now is to configure a user. So how do we configure a user? We basically need to go back to where we were coming from. So if you go to the test user, remember this user does not have it doesn't have a GUI access. So it doesn't have like the management console access. It cannot log in. But there's one thing that is peculiar to all of them. So if I go to security credentials, what I can do is here, I can create an access key on behalf of this person. Okay? So I can create an access key. So what it means is that I can come here, I would say I want to create an access key. And you see here, it gives me the option. What is my access key going to be used for, right? So you see, it tells me command line interface, there's a local code, there's an application. And that's just to tell you that your use of the console, like your use of the management console, is not just the only way you are going to be using the cloud. Yes, it's not going to be fun, right? There are other ways you need there are other ways you can access your AWS services outside using the management console. So here it's asking me, what the user access key that I want to create, where am I going to use it for? So here in my own case, I know that I want to use it for the command line interface, right? I really know what it's warning me about, and I'm going to show you. So I'm just going to do next. I confirm that I understand, that I want to proceed. Usually, it's always discouraged. Don't generate access key. That's it's one of the things we're going to see as a security best practice. But usually, I think even during the IAM section, I think I did mention to you that it's not advisable. You don't generate access keys. There are better ways of using your services, and that's why role comes in, right? Because roles are better for cases like this, because when you generate an access key, it can get to the wrong hand. Okay, but in this case, just to show you what we're trying to demo, I'm going to go that route. So I'll just say my CLI key. That's what I'm going to call it. So I'll say create access key. Right now, there's an access key that is there, right? There's an access key that is there. So there's an access key on the left, and there's the secret access key. So there's an access key and there's a secret access key. Okay. Remember, in the console, it didn't know us. So let's go back to the console and let's see whether the console is going to know us. So what did it say we should do? You have to do AWS configure, right? So I'll do AWS configure if you were just starting from the beginning, right? So now it's asking me for. I don't know can you see it clearly? Can you still see my screen? I just want to be sure because this part is very crucial. Please put in the comment section if you can see my screen. Yes, okay. So GT can see it. Yes. Bettina can see. So I see a lot of yes. So that's good for me. So the command I typed now is AWS configure. Remember, I said I was trying to do something via the command line interface. CLI is called command line interface. But because I'm trying to do it, doesn't know me, doesn't even know my region. So here it's asking me, there's a popularly known command which is AWS configure, and it can actually help you configure your environment, right? But there are other ways you can configure an environment, but this is like the basic one you need to know. So when I type AWS access key ID, it's asking me for that. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to copy this one, right? There is an access key here. So I'm just going to come here and then I'll paste it, right? I do enter. What about this? I'm just going to copy it, okay? Because now it's asking me for AWS secret access key. Remember, the names match, right? Secret access key, right? That's exactly what it's asking me. So I'm going to go back here and I'm just going to type, I'm just going to paste it here and do enter. Now it's asking me for region, right? So which region am I going to use? I'm going to do US West 2 because that's exactly where I want to test. Default output, I don't mind for now. So I'm just going to do this and then I'm going to clear. Okay. So if you notice, it asks me for the access key, the secret, and then it asks me for my region, and then it asks me for output as the last step. So there were 4 things it asked me. Okay. And then now the question is that if I now try that operation that I tried before, let me just try it. So I can say AWS SNS, right? I can say create. Okay, let me even try list topic first. Let me just say AWS SNS list topic. Sorry, list topics. So it's correcting me that list, there's nothing like list topic, there's list topics. Okay. So I'm just going to use the right one. Now, what can you see on the screen? It's very, very important to understand. What can you see on the screen? Can you see something on the screen? Let me know what you see on the screen. This step is very important. What do you see on the screen? Let me zoom it in a bit. I think, yeah, I probably need to zoom the screen. Yeah, but it's not just an error. It's a specific error. It says that the user, can you see it knows me? Yes. Can you see me? Can you see that it knows me? You can see the identity there. It's test user. Not that the user does not have a policy. The user does have a policy, right? The user has a permission. But the only problem here is that the user is trying to do something that is not authorized. That's just the thing. So yes, for Last Empire, that's the right word. So the user is not authorized to do what the user is trying to do. It doesn't mean that the user does not have the right permission, right? So when you see it, it says there's no identity-based policy that allows you to do that. Okay, because I'm trying to list topics. Okay, so what if we change that and we say SNS create topic, and then we give it a name, and then we say test topic, for example, or let's just give it my test topic. Let's see what will happen. It will still fail, right? Now we're trying to create a topic. We know the user has permission to create a topic, but it's still failing. And the question is, why is it failing? I thought you had a user. Remember that we locked down the permission to a specific thing, just one thing, okay? So we need to go back and look for the user, the policy, and what can the person create. The person can only create my CLI topic. So I'm going to copy this one, right? And go back there and say, okay, it looks like there's only one thing that I'm able to do. I'm going to do this. Let's see. The topic was created, if you noticed. So the first one, it tried to do list topics. It didn't work. The second one, it tried to create topic, but it was just trying to create any topic, right? And it didn't work. But the third one, he did put my CLI topic as the name, and that worked. Okay. So what that means is that we've tied this person now. This is the only thing you can do. You can't do any other thing. And that's why you see, I was able to share the credential, right? I was able to share it even on the call. Ideally, these are things that I'm supposed to do pre-record, because I don't want to share. But now I know that even if you have the access key, wherever you are, the highest you can do is send API calls to create topic, right? Which is not, to me, it's not a big deal. But if I go back, let's see. Let's go back to SNS now. So if I go to topics, do you think the topic is going to be here? You're not going to see it here. It's not going to be here, right? It's not going to, but the topic has been created. The reason is because I'm in US East 1. That's my region right now. Remember, we gave him permission to create that topic in US West 2. So if I go to US West 2, I'll see that topic. Okay, the topic is going to be here. So the topic is here. You can see it. It was created, my CLI topic. Okay, in case you are not seeing it, it's here. It was created just now from the CLI, right? So it means that the same thing you are doing in the UI, you can as well do it from the CLI. You basically just need to give the person the right credential, and the person should be able to do it. Okay, so that works. So let me go back. I'm done. Like this is bad practice. I shouldn't do this. So I'm just going to go back and delete the access key. So there's an access key here. It was created 5 minutes ago. I created it on this call. Probably somebody has screenshot it. Somebody has it, has the access key, right? So it means that's a good time to pretty much delete it, so that if somebody wants to use it again, they're not going to be able to use it. So I'm just going to copy this. I'm not deactivating it. Okay, maybe I'll deactivate first, and then I'm going to paste it here and just delete it. So if anyone has it from this call, if they're trying to use it, it's of no use again. But I've shown you the concept. The whole idea is that you can generate a credential here, and then someone who has access to that credential can actually do things on your behalf. Okay, so it's not just going to the console alone. That's not the only way you interact with your AWS CLI. Everything you've seen me do here, you can do it from the CLI. That's one step. Okay, so I think we've established that. So we've been able to create the same topic we usually create from the UI. We've been able to create it from the console. Okay. Good. I love this. So what's next? Surprisingly, I don't know. There's no money for me to go through this slide, but I'm going to explain. Remember, this is exactly what we did, right? I didn't even know I wrote it down here, but the whole idea was that we created a set of, we did AWS configure. It asked us for access key ID. It asked us for the secret key. It asked us for region. And then for the last step, it did tell us what format did we want, right? And then we ran a simple command that says AWS SNS create topic, and then we gave it a name. And then we were able to create it. Remember, on the other side, there was a permission that said you can only create if you have this permission, right? So we did all that. So, but what does that translate to? So let's look for something. So if I go back to, so one thing you notice is that once you do AWS configure, right? At the end of the day, it actually creates, let me see. Okay. Let me see. Okay. AWS. Okay, it's here, right? I think okay. Yes. So this is what I wanted to show you. So remember, as at that step, when we're doing all that, one thing you did not see, you did AWS configure, right? But during that process, he created a file. Yeah, he created a file called .aws/credential. So he created the file here, users Brainyl AWS credential. So he created the file like that, and then he put the access key. Remember, I've deleted this. So even if anybody has this, now it doesn't bother me again because I've deleted it. So he did put the access key here. He did put like default. So this is like my default user right now. Okay, so and then he put my key here. So it means that even if I didn't do that AWS configure, I can as well just go and edit this file, and then I should be good also. Just so you know. Okay, so just know that when I did AWS configure, everything that I gave it, he saved it in this file, and that's how he knows me. So anywhere I am, whether I open another tab, it knows who I am already within the account. Okay, I think that's basically all that you need to know for the CLI for this level that we are right now. Just know that nobody's going to ask you all these steps, but I need you to know it. I need you to know it. So as part of the builders day, one of these days, you have to build it. You have to do these things too from the CLI, because it's not just for you to know that, oh, CLI is another way for me to use my AWS account. The question is that, can you also use the CLI to interact with your AWS account, right? So because there are some simple things you want to do, you don't need to go to the CLI, you don't need to go to the management console to do that. You can just do it from the command line, okay? And the command you saw me running, also let me share it. It's not from my head, right? It's not from my head. If I do AWS, I know I'm showing you these things because I want you to have the right mindset. So if I do AWS CLI and I do SNS create topic, for example, so you know that, yeah, there is like a documentation that shows exactly what you need to do. So just think about it. You're not putting it in your head. You don't need to put it like cram it and be like, okay, no, I need to know the command of fan. Nobody's going to ask you that. But if you ever want to do anything from the CLI with your AWS account, there's a well-known documentation called the AWS CLI command reference, where you can go and see exactly which command you need to do what. So in this case, for example, I'm doing AWS SNS and I'm doing create topic, and it tells me exactly the parameters that I need. In this case, I need the create topic. I need to do the create topic and I need to give it a name. And that's exactly the example we use, right? We just did create topic, we gave it a name, right? You don't need to cram any syntax, blah, 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 let's see. That's the word. You don't need to cram, okay? Even here to tell you which one is required or which one does not, which one is not required. So don't just know that the CLI is command line interface for you to be able to interact with your AWS services, right? Without going to the console, without going to the management console is an option for you, okay? And you're going to see it in your journey. There's no way you can tell me you know the AWS, there's no way you can tell me you know AWS if you can't use the console. There's no way, right? There's no way. You have to know how to use the management console. You also have to use the CLI, because there are some things Yes, we can assume a role. We can assume a role, Bettina. It's just that I don't want to take you that route. That's like a cost. So the thing is that maybe because you're asking the question, let me explain it to you. Remember, in this case, we gave it an access key, right? We gave it an access key. We give it an access secret, right? But the thing is that for a role, it's going to be different. It's going to be a bit different. We'll assume the role, get credential, and use that credential. So that's just a different approach. But honestly, at the cloud practitioner level, right now, I'm even giving you more information that you need. I'm giving you more information. But again, I'm trying to build your background very well, such that when you start doing the highest level stuff in AWS, it becomes very easy. Okay, so but I'm not going to give you the concept of assuming right now. That's more complex. We don't need it for now. Okay, so we're done with the CLI. So what about XDK? We've done CLI. The next thing we should now be talking about is SDK. Yes. So CLI is, remember, it's command line interface, right? But there's also software development kit, right? And that's what is called SDK. So the CLI in this case, it was like command line, right? But there are times where you also want to use your AWS service from an application, right? Maybe the application is in Python, maybe the application is in Java, whatever it is, right? That's where like a CLI, an SDK comes in. So you see language specific libraries for programmatic AWS access. Okay, so if you wanted to programmatically, not console, not CLI now, not like a command line. Now you want to use like a program, to talk to your AWS services. It's also possible, and that's where the concept of SDKs come in. Okay, what it means is that you can actually directly integrate your AWS service to your application code. Some people have been asking me programming and all that. Yes, that's the whole idea, because from your code, you can actually talk to your AWS service. Okay. And Boto 3 is one of it. AWS CDK for JavaScript, Java, and Go. These are all popular, but we're going to see Boto 3, what it looks like here. So let's go back to the one for Boto 3. So let's try SDK, what SDK looks like. So when you hear SDK, what does it look like? If I go back to my console right now, right, I'm going to do this. So I'm going to do Python. Right now, I won't have Python installed. I'm not sure what you are seeing, but if I open what I have in my screen, I don't have it. Usually in Mac, it's very easy for you to get Python installed. So you can do brew install Python, and all that. But here, I'm just going to do get. So when I typed Python, it said it didn't know Python. So let me install it now. So let me say get. What is it saying? It's even trying to get it, preparing to download. So let's give it some time. Let's give it some time to give us like a Python program. So it's still downloading. So like I said, SDK is basically don't install from MS Market. Don't worry. As time goes on, you can. This thing is just me showing you. Yeah, Windows is obviously Windows, right? It depends on your local setup might be different from mine. Trust me. But the most important thing is just have Python installed. That's the most important thing. I don't have any I don't know. I don't have a recommended way of how you should install it, right? Especially you're testing locally, right? So whatever development environment that works for you, have it installed. The most important thing is, like I mentioned, the first one, we needed the AWS CLI. We installed it. It's better to install. We've done we used the CLI and we installed, and then here we're just installing Python, okay, for my own test. But you can also go to the website. However you want to install Python, just install. Basically it's for your local setup, right? Your local testing. So it's still downloading. Let's give it some time. So while it's doing that, remember that we said SDK is like software development kit, meaning you're using an application to interact with your AWS service. Remember, this whole segment is all about the other ways that you can interact with your AWS services, right? We've done management console, right? And we've done the CLI, right? And now we're trying to do it using the software development kit. And the software is not a big deal. It's just basically from a programming language or from an application, you're doing that, okay? So I don't know why it's taking this long. It should have finished, but let's give it some time. So let me see. It's still not installed yet, but let me even find let me see if I can find yes, tell me that's the word. So it uses programming applications. Yeah, it uses like it's like you're trying to interact with your AWS services from your AWS from an application. In this case, we're using Python to test, but it could be anything else. It could be something else. Okay. Not sure why is it not? It's taking too much time to download. Why? Let me see. I'm not sure why. But again, I know it's possible. I can just go to the website and get it, but I don't know. Checking dependencies. Yeah. Like you see, some of these things I do it live on the call, right? Just to tell you that some of these things are things that you can always go back and try it yourself. And honestly, you need to try it yourself. That's what I always tell people. Try it yourself. Don't always feel that, oh, you know it. So I think now you went through. It says it's installed, right? So it means that if I clear my screen, remember I use Python. I use Windows here. I'm a Mac user, but I use Windows here. So yes, Python is installed now, right? So Python is installed. So I'm going to exit here, and then I'm just going to do pip install I think I can just do boto3. So remember that the fact that yes, I can use the fact that I can use, what do you call it? The fact that I can interact with my AWS services from an application does not mean it's automatic. I need to install something. So it means that I need something to be installed for me to be able to do that. In this case, what I really need to use is what do you call it? Boto3. Okay, Boto3 is well known. It's really well known in the Python world. If you need to interact with AWS services using this, Boto3 is one of those tools that you're going to use. So let's now build like a simple application that does the same thing that we did before, right? Remember what we did before from the CLI, we created is an SNS topic, but now we want to do it from code, okay? So what it means is that we have to go back and edit our credential. Remember, I've deleted that credential. But again, even if I didn't delete it, it probably will not work. It probably will not work because of how it was set up, okay? But again, I'm going to just go back and re-edit it. But while we are doing that, maybe we can write the code together. So I can do test SDK, SDK. It's so funny how it's so funny how okay. It's so funny how if I'm using Windows, it's like I'm starting all over again because it's been long. If not for this training that I'm doing, I don't use Windows. Like it's been long, yeah, that I used Windows. So I just opened it in what do you call it? I opened it in I'm opening it in test SDK, so I can actually save it. It's saved. So what do I need to do? Maybe I don't even need to. I think I have like a snippet that I can just paste in here. Let me see, so that I don't need to stress you to see the code. I just want to get the result, okay? So let me see if I can find one. Let me see. Remember what we are trying to do is that I think I'm just going to do this, import this one here. Okay, so just going to go here, basically close, and then just give me a second. I think I need to do a verification. The setting activity has been detected. Okay, so I've gone through my verification. Cool. So what am I doing? Remember, we installed Python first, then we installed Boto3, right? Again, like I told you, these things, honestly, they're public information. So if I go to Boto3 and I say SNS, for example, there's also a documentation, trust me. Yes, so if I go back to here, I can see SNS, and there's a method here that says create topic, okay? So it says create topic, and then I need to give it a name. Remember, what we were checking before was CLI. Now we are checking the SDK kind of documentation. And in this case, we are using Boto3, right? So I'm just going to say, okay, I need a client. And what is the client here in this case? So the client here is SNS client. So I'm just going to call it SNS. Let me call it client so that it's clear, okay? And then I'm going to say SNS client. People have been asking me before that will this require programming? Yes, this is the programming that is required because you also need code. You need to be able to use code to talk to your application, right? So I'm going to call this one create topic, and I'm going to call it SDK SNS SNS topic. Let me see. So I'm just going to do this. Okay. So we've created it. It's as simple as this. So basically, we imported Boto3, right? Boto3, it's like it's the SDK we are talking about because that's what allows you to. So it's like the software development kit, right? That allows you to be able to interact with your AWS service, right? So in this case, Boto3 is the SDK. So we've installed Python first, right? And then we installed an SDK on top of it, which is Boto3 in this case. And then we just said we need a client. And like I said, there's a documentation out there for it. So we did Boto3.client. In this case, we want to interact with SNS. And we are saying SNS client, please create a topic. Call it SDK SNS topic. Okay. Is Boto3 the API? No, Boto3 is the SDK. Is the SDK. So what do you think will happen? I can just run Python and give it my test SDK file, right? What do you think is going to happen? It's actually going to try to do something on my behalf. I think so. But let's give it some time. So it goes in. Yes. So you can see it tells me here there is problem, right? Probably because the token ID is incorrect. I know why. It's probably because the credential it's trying to use now is not correct. Remember, we deleted it, right? We deleted it as part of the test. We did delete it. So maybe we can now go and create one for this specific use case. Remember, the user we're trying to create is SDK SNS topic. So let's go and fix that up. So like I told you, we'll go back. Let's look for where it is. We're going to go back to our test user. There's a test user that we created. It's a policy. Maybe I want to edit this. Remember, we're done with CLI topic, so we need to give this person the one that allows him to do what do you call it? So I'm just going to do next and then save this. So what have I done here? I'm editing the policy just for the person to be able to use it in the SDK. We were able to do it in the CLI successfully, okay? But now we need to go to do it via the SDK, and now I'm updating the policy to allow that. So if you check the JSON, it's saying that if you see the JSON here, it's saying the person can create SNS topic. This topic has to be SDK SNS topic, okay? And we know that this policy is already attached to a user, it's the test user. But the only problem now is that I deleted the access key. So maybe I should generate a new one. So I'm just going to create an access key. In this case, I'm also going to use CLI. Don't worry, it's the same. I need it to give me something. So I'm just going to call it SDK access key. Okay, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to create the access key. It's giving me, right? So I'm going to copy this, take it back to where I was coming from. And I could do AWS configure again. Remember there was an access key there before, but I've deleted it. So I'm going to put in new ones now. So I'm going to do Ctrl V, put this one there, and then I'm going to go back here and do copy and paste it here to replace that. And the default region is US West. Default format is good. So so once this is out of the way, what if we try it again? So what do you think is going to happen? Let's try Python this. Yeah, this time it didn't complain. Did you notice? It went successfully, smoothly. The first time we got an error, but this time it worked. Okay. And just to show you that it actually worked, let's go and look for the topic. Remember, this was my CLI topic that we created before. But now if I refresh this list, I'm going to see another one. I'm going to see another one. So it's not magic. You can see there's an SDK SNS topic. Okay. So what have I done? So what have I showed you? I've showed you that it's the same concept. You need someone's credential to do this, right? So we created a user, we gave it the permission to do exactly this action. Okay. And then once we created our user, we gave it the permission. Remember when we created the user, we said this person is not somebody who's going to log into the management console. This person is only going to use it either via the CLI or via an SDK. So we tried the CLI approach. And now in this case, we also got an access key for the same person and then use it in our Python code to interact. Okay. So we've talked about three ways. Management console is really what I'm doing here, right? But I'm saying that everything you do here can also be done. Most of the things you do here can also be done via the CLI. And it can also be done using an application. In this case, it was a simple Python application. I think that was like one of the simplest Python applications you see out there. It was just a very simple application, Python. We installed Python, and then we installed Boto3, which is the SDK, right? That is needed for you to be able to talk to AWS services because you are using Python. In some other languages, there are other SDK. So the concept is that software development kit is what allows you to use your application to talk to AWS, right? Your services in AWS. So in this case, we created a very simple one, and we did imports. We imported Boto3, we did SNS client is Boto3.client, SNS, and then we said create topic. This was very simple, and it created the SNS topic, right? Good. Let's go back to the slide. Like I told you, over time, it's going to get a bit, it gets complex as we go in your journey, okay? But you have to just get the concept. Some of these things, they're not going to ask you in the exam. So all these things that I'm showing you, you won't see any Python code they say that they will ask you, oh, is this Python code correct? Is this the right way to write it? You are not going to see that. But you need to know how. Number one, because I don't know, you're not taking this training just because you want to pass an exam, right? You want to know how. How, if you become a cloud engineer or you become someone in the cloud, how do you think you're going to be interacting with your AWS services? These are the ways. One is via the management console, one is via the CLI, another one is also via SDKs, okay? And those are the three options that I've mentioned that you should know. And you see them in the exam, but not, they will not be asking you very specific questions like, oh, how do you install it? Oh, no, not those kind of questions, but at least you need to know those different areas, especially how, you can access your AWS services, okay? So, I think that that's that for what I just explained. So where was I? I was in SDK, right? So we did for yeah, it's the same, really similar. So if you see what I did here, environment variables for keys and region, we did that. So when we're doing AWS configure, we did give it an access key, access secret. We gave it all that. It stored it somewhere, right? And then it will store the credentials as usual under home.aws/credentials. It's like that even in Linux. Okay. I think Bettina was asking if role was ideal. Yes, I told you, whenever you think of using a user's credential, whenever you see yourself pasting access key. So while we're on this call, I think I need to go back and delete it, right? So I need to go back and delete. You see, and that's the reason you have to always remember to go and delete the access key that you created. So I'm done. I just have to delete it again because somebody might be on this call that have seen me, create it. They might copy it. They might use it to test. You don't want that, right? You don't want that, and that's why access keys are usually discouraged. So if there is a better way for you to interact with your AWS services without using access keys, they are preferred. And that's why role is a thing. Like it's better, that application, for example, should have assumed the role. That role will give it a credential and it will use that credential to access the AWS account. But it's fine. You don't need to stress yourself on that for now. When we get there, you're going to understand it clearly what it's all about. But let's go back to where we're coming from. So if I go back here to the slideshow, like I said, the tip I'm giving here is never hard code your credentials. Okay, use roles or environment variables. In this case, you see, I'm showing you live, like everything is, it's not a pre-recorded video, so I'm showing you exactly how it works. Okay, but as you grow in your journey, some of these things are things that I don't need like an access key to do. I can also use like a role. Okay, but I've shown you SDK. Oh, I didn't even know there was a code here and I was writing it myself. Okay, but there's an example code here. So if you have, maybe you see the slide or Mr. Nice, I can't show you that now because you're not at that level. So cloud practitioner, nobody will tell you. You not really need to see things like assuming roles and doing all that. When the time comes, that's a knowledge that you understand. If you are learning it now, you are learning it. Yeah, it's too advanced for this step, for this stage. Okay. So this is I think this is what I was trying to do with Python. Okay. Now we talked about three methods. What's the fourth method? And that's CloudShell. Okay. CloudShell is another method. CloudShell is just like your CLI. It's like your CLI. The same CLI that we were doing before is what CloudShell is. But it's just like it's something that is already inside of AWS. So think about I wanted to do something, right? And I was already in the account. What is the point going back to my own console to do it? I can as well do it inside the AWS account. So just think about it that it's like a browser shell, right? That is already pre-authenticated with my credentials, with whoever is logged in's credential, and you're going to see how it works. Okay. So the advantage is I don't really need to set up anything. So I don't need to set up the CLI. Remember, here we have to install the CLI, we have to set up the credential, we have to do all that. But for CloudShell, you don't need to do all that. All those are pre-configured for you. You just basically do CloudShell and then make the operation that you want to make, and then it's working. So let's see CloudShell. CloudShell is really it's easy. There's no two ways about it. But let me just show you what it looks like. So let's go to CloudShell. So we've done three. This is the fourth method. So what is CloudShell? If you type here basically and you do CloudShell, yeah, it's showing here, right? And what does it say? It says it's a browser-based. So when I typed it here, I can close this. There is more to CloudShell, but you just need to know that it's another CLI that is already in the cloud. Just think about it. It's a CLI that is already in the cloud. So the other CLI, I had to install it on my Windows. I had to set it up. I had to give it my credential. But this one is already in the cloud. So I can as well just come here and do my actions. I don't have to do it from my local machine, right? So what it means is that if I come here and I type AWS, it's there already. I don't have to, right? Because it's there. The shell is already preloaded with the CLI and everything. So I can just go. And the thing is that the person who opens the cloud shell, my credential is already inside this shell. It's here already. So it means that inside here, it knows I'm the one already. So whoever I am, in this case, I'm Brainyl. It knows me. So for example, I can just come here and say, remember here, I can create topic as much as I want, because the reason is because I'm Brainyl. I have more permissions. Remember, the other user, we created specialized permissions for those users. But here, I'm the Brainyl. Brainyl is the one logged in here, and my credentials are already inside the shell. So I can use it to create anything. So I can do the same operation. I can do AWS SNS. I can do create topic and call it and give it a name and call it CloudShell SNS, right? Topic. Do topic and do this. Did you see that I created? Like, he didn't have to ask me. He didn't tell me. He didn't tell me I didn't have the permission, right? He didn't tell me because he knows this is Brainyl, and I'm an admin user in this case. No, I'm not. It's not my root. It's my Brainyl user. My root is somewhere else here, but this is Brainyl. So it's my management. It's my admin account, right? He knows me. So you see, I just said create topic, and he created one immediately, right? So that's CloudShell. Just know that it's a CLI in your AWS account that when you open, it already has the CLI set up. It has your credentials set up, and you can just use it to immediately interact. Why do you have to narrow down the ARN for CLI or CDK? Because I'm doing this live, Bettina. I'm doing this live. If I don't narrow it down, everyone on this live already has access to those credentials. It means wherever you are, you can actually do things. Yeah, that's why I have to narrow it down, because I'm live. I'm doing this thing live. I'm showing you the access key. I'm showing you the secret, right? That's why I narrowed it down. So even if you have the access key, there's only one operation you can perform in my account. You can only create a topic, right? But if it was very extensive, you can do more things. Maybe you can even start playing with my account and create resources. And that's the whole idea. And that's why your foundation of IAM is helping you now, because you know that in AWS, you can only do something if it is allowed, if there's a permission that grants you access to that thing. So I can even give you my account. You see my account, you have my account ID, but you can't do anything. Even if I give an access key, that access key probably is tied down to just maybe one operation, and that's it. That's the max you can do, okay? But if for your own test, you can expand it, you can do more things. You can do a delete, you can do a create, you can do list topic, because you are the one doing it yourself, and you are not doing it live like I am doing it right now. But you can see it's created the topic already. If I go back to SNS, I need to change my region. If I refresh, like I said, you have to keep an eye on it. It's not going to show here because I created it in US East 1, okay? I'm not in that region. So I have to go back to US East 1 here to see the topic that I created, and you can see it here, okay? So I showed you how to do things. So we've done the same thing 4 ways. We created one via the UI, we created one via the CLI, we created another one via this SDK, and then we created one via CloudShell, okay? So what is the takeaway from this? Let's see. Like I said, the CloudShell is pre-configured already with the CLI. Yeah, this is CloudShell in action. We've already done that. So console, your management console, basically visual. Some people are better, especially now that you're learning, right? Now that you're learning, you probably, many of these things are still new to you. So sometimes it's easy for you to just go to the UI. And that's why I always tell people, there's no way I'm not going to show you how things works in the console. Because if you don't know in the management console, because if you don't know how things work there, it might be hard for you to translate them to code. It might be hard for you to translate them to the CLI. That's why I always start from showing you what it looks like in the UI. and then you have to do all that, right? But the CLI basically comes from scripting. You can script, you can automate, um, and then SDK also, you can integrate it with an application. So if there was a Python application that needs to send something to SNS, that's where SDK comes in. Okay. And then CloudShell, you are in an account, you wanted to troubleshoot something. Why come back to your CLI to do it? You can as well just open a CloudShell terminal and then just type the command that you want to run in there, right? To do whatever you want to do. So it's basically for quick access. You don't need to set up any CLI. Everything is set up already for you. Cool. That is basically it.